Live News Bulletin, Theodore reporting. Tonight we dive straight into a spiraling web of relationships, betrayals, and blurred boundaries shaking the so-called Mormon wives circle. And let's be clear from the start, this is no longer just messy gossip. This is a full-scale social implosion playing out in real time, where loyalty, friendship, and reputation are colliding head-on with impulsive decisions and a pattern of behavior that many are now calling deeply questionable. At the center of this chaos stands one name that keeps resurfacing like a storm that refuses to pass: Chase, a man who has now become the common denominator in a growing list of romantic entanglements involving multiple women within the same tight-knit circle. And the latest development has only intensified the situation. Jessie, fresh off a highly publicized emotional discussion about her divorce from Jordan, has now been exposed for kissing Chase at a party, an act that didn't just raise eyebrows, it detonated tensions across the entire group. Because this is not happening in isolation. This is layered on top of a complicated history involving marriages, divorces, past scandals, and overlapping relationships that were already fragile at best. Now, to understand the magnitude of this, we have to break down the pattern. Taylor was once married to Tate. Their relationship collapsed amid a swinging scandal that also involved Miranda and Chase, and what was supposed to be controlled boundaries purportedly turned into emotional crossover, leading to broken marriages on multiple fronts. Then Chase moved on, connecting with Lila, who later became involved with his own brother Mason, and eventually entered a relationship with Kate, who, despite no longer being with him, remained socially tied to the same group, creating a tightly wound network where nearly everyone is connected to the same man in some capacity. And now Jessie has entered that exact same orbit, despite warnings from friends, despite knowing the history, and despite just publicly stepping out of a marriage that she described as deeply problematic. And here's where the situation turns from messy to explosive. Miranda, Chase's ex and co-parent, confirmed the incident herself, revealing that Jessie sent apology flowers after the fact, a gesture that, instead of calming the situation, only confirmed the betrayal and intensified the emotional fallout. Because from Miranda's perspective, this is not about lingering romantic feelings. She made it clear there's no emotional attachment left. This is about respect, about boundaries, and about what she calls girl code, a standard she believes has been completely violated. And that sentiment is echoed by others in the group, including Kate, who revealed she too was supposed to receive apology flowers, a move that now looks less like remorse and more like damage control. Meanwhile, Jessie's ex-husband Jordan has re-entered the narrative, attempting to challenge her credibility by denying claims she made about him, including allegations of extreme behavior during their relationship. But the public reaction to him has been overwhelmingly dismissive, with many urging him to stay out of the situation entirely, suggesting that his involvement only adds more noise rather than clarity. And yet, even as this chaos unfolds, another layer emerges. Jessie's recent podcast appearance painted a picture of a woman breaking free from what she described as controlling and invasive behavior, including claims of digital surveillance and manipulation, allegations that, if true, would explain why so many initially supported her decision to leave the marriage. But that support is now being tested, because the narrative has shifted from empowerment to questionable judgment, as viewers and followers are now asking how someone seeking peace and independence could step directly into a situation so entangled and emotionally charged. And then comes the wild card, Harry Jowsey, who unexpectedly becomes part of this storm after voice messages between him and Jessie were brought into the spotlight. Messages that turned out to be harmless, yet were allegedly used as a trigger point for conflict in her marriage. And now, in a twist that almost feels surreal, Chase is set to appear on Harry's podcast, a move that signals this drama is far from over. In fact, it's evolving into something even more public, more performative, and potentially more damaging for everyone involved. What we are witnessing here is not just a series of impulsive decisions, it's a pattern, a cycle where boundaries are repeatedly crossed, warnings are ignored, and consequences ripple through an entire social ecosystem, turning friendships into fault lines and private matters into public spectacle. The core question now is not just why Jesse made this choice, but why this pattern continues to repeat itself around Chase, why multiple relationships within the same group keep circling back to him, and whether this is a case of individual accountability failing or a deeper cultural dynamic within this group that normalizes blurred lines and emotional overlap. As it stands, the fallout is still unfolding. Friendships are strained, trust has been fractured, and with more voices stepping forward and more platforms amplifying every detail, this story is not slowing down, it is accelerating. And if history is any indication, the next chapter will be even more intense, because in a circle this interconnected, every action triggers a chain reaction, and right now, that chain reaction is far from finished.